hot or cold therapies you personally have you found beneficial or tried as you're coming into the meeting? Type that in the chat and let us know some stuff you have tried that you think is pretty nice. Kelly and I will
Ice.
say ours once we get a little bit more into it, but yeah.
Ice for
Okay.
bruising, the saunas.
Sauna,
Cold
cold
plunge
plunge.
is
Here we
so
go.
popular.
Ice for plantar fasciitis. There we go. Heat blanket, sore muscles. Heat blanket to stay warm in the winter. Really?
Heat blanket for Minnesota winters when
Yeah.
you're in Minnesota.
Yep.
Ooh, cold therapy, migraine relief.
Okay.
Ugh, Bikram yoga.
I don't know. I'm not, I'm
That's
familiar with
like
that.
that hot, like hot yoga when you do. That sounds tough. Some of those exercise things, like it's so tough already. It is good, but it's tough
Oh
without
yeah.
heat. Yeah.
I have done a hot yoga class before. That was tough. I haven't done it since
One and
because
done,
it's
just
really hard.
tried. That's
Yeah.
how I am with the cold plunge. I've done that once. I'm like, yep, no, thanks. I, as I was saying before, I like being cold and wet together are the worst combination. I hate being cold. So
Cold and
today
wet.
I'll be
Yeah.
talking about the heat therapies and
Yeah.
or Isaac will be focusing a little bit more on the cold. Oh yeah, and the red light therapy. So
Red flag.
I'm actually
Okay.
gonna get into a little bit of the infrared
You are.
saunas today. I am.
Sweet. Sweet.
Yeah.
Good. Well, here we are. It's 2:16 Central Time. We can kind of start our conversation talking about cold and hot therapy. So, Kelly, I'm interested to know what you're gonna say, but what have you used in the past, like as far as cold and hot therapies, and just tell
Yeah.
about the experience of that. Yeah.
I think growing up in sports, it was always ice, especially like any sprains, those acute injuries, that's swollen. I think I feel like the go-to was always like, oh, use ice. uh, and
Yeah.
now heat has gotten a little bit more popular and having that combo or now learning when to use which. So I feel like growing up, I was using a lot of ice, but I do have a hot tub. And so I like that, more relaxing, but also I'll do it for stretching as well. So I'll be like, as I'm lying, sitting in there, I'll stretch as well. So I have done a polar plunge, like sauna polar plunge at a friend's cabin back and forth, but I can't really say it was for like therapy. It was more for entertainment as, as an activity to do. So that's kind of
Yeah.
my background. I have done an infrared sauna, but again, not consistently enough to be like, oh, I noticed a huge difference. But I will get into benefits, but that's just my personal thing. I kind of think it's like a massage. Like when you get a massage, you're like, oh, yeah, that felt good. But a couple
Right.
days later, it
Yeah.
doesn't seem like it's so hard to tell. There's so many variables. Like, was it the massage or like, was it the heat? Was it stretching? Was it I was hydrated or dehydrated? Was it like we have a whole stuff
Right.
like is it I'm deficient in something? Like there's so many variables. So it's kind of tough to be like that one thing helped. How about
Right.
you, Isaac? What have you
First,
used?
totally. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like a consistency is key with a lot of those things. But no, I this was pre-children. I used to do sauna 2 to 3 times a week for at least 20 minutes. And I was pretty religious with that. I would go do my strength training at the gym, then go into the sauna for 20 minutes. And I did that, yeah, three times a week. And as far as like, my own personal benefits, what I don't know exactly what the 100% the research says, but you can tell me here in a little bit. But it is, I definitely did notice. It seemed that especially after something like strength training, recovery was pretty quick from when I started doing it to when I stopped doing it. I did notice just in my own body after after strength training that it seemed like I could recover faster with that. And I did kind of sub that in for cardiovascular exercise because it does really make you start to breathe heavy. You feel that perspiration, it gets your heart rate up, and whatnot. And then, like you mentioned earlier, Kelly, with the ice after football practice, after practices, it seems like that was pretty common thing that I would do, that a lot of us would do, is just getting into the ice bath after practice to kind of take down that inflammation, hopefully help with the soreness of that. And then my first winter in Minnesota, I was like, I'm going to totally embrace living in Minnesota. And we had our apartment was very close to Lake Harriet in Minneapolis, and they have a little hole in Lake Harriet. It's like a community of people that in the lake there that you can go in and use that for like cold water immersion. And I did that probably 8 total times. I try to do it at least once a week. And you know, how did I feel? I felt great afterwards for like that first 12-hour period after doing it. And it really did help with like maybe just like some soreness uh, in general, like whether it's my back or knee or whatever. Um, and I mean, I did it so much that my show and tell thing is I even got little booties for when I went into the lake because you can sit in the lake longer if you don't have if you have your extremities covered because really it's that first minutes, 2 minutes, you'll start feeling that in your toes significantly to where you have to leave before you're actually getting some of the benefits of that. So those are
Definitely
my
wakes
own
you up
personal.
as well. I
Yeah,
imagine like
yeah,
you're so alert after.
yeah. Well, I mean, it really did. Like I did it right away in the morning. So like like kind of as the sun was coming up and it's a unique experience, it's a good time.
People
But
pay big money for that, and you
yeah,
had it right out your door.
yeah, it was like a 5 minute drive, so it's pretty nice. Met a friend there multiple times too, so got him into it as well. Um,
Kudos to you. Having it dark, cold, that would be so hard, but I'm sure it feels great
well, yeah,
afterwards.
it's like you're trying to convince someone, like for instance, my wife, like you're waking up at 5:30 to do what again on Sunday morning, and I'm stuck with the baby.
Yeah,
Like, what are
right.
you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, but no, so I guess that kind of leads into what I was going to talk about, more of like the cold therapies that we were just discussing. And then Kelly's going to kind of go a little bit more into detail with the hot therapies. So, there are multiple types of cold therapies and benefits. And the ones that I'm going to concentrate on, I guess, are ice packs, and then kind of lumping them into the cold water immersion, like I was talking about it earlier, in the cryo therapy. So ice packs, pretty standard, right? We've been doing this for years and years and years, and it's ice packs are particularly beneficial for acute injuries or acute post exercise, because what that does is that helps take down the swelling, helps decrease the inflammation to where it's going to help with the pain overall of whatever that injury is. Or if, like I mentioned earlier, I used to do ice baths after football practice because I had a previous ankle injury, and so I would ice my one ankle for about 15 minutes post practice, and it seemed to be beneficial, at that point. But then cold water immersion, which is pretty popular now through a lot of different influencers and some of the research that is starting to come out with it. And there is limited research really about how beneficial is it really. And obviously it's cold, right? So we know, and we can say with certainty, that it is going to take down inflammation throughout your entire body, right? Because it does decrease that blood flow. Um, and same with the cryotherapy. And unfamiliar with what cryotherapy is, it's a whole body exposure to extremely cold air. So it's like this chamber that you walk in, and its temperatures as low as negative 100 degrees Celsius to 140 degrees Celsius. And same thing, people, a lot of athletes will do that after exercise or practices to help reduce that inflammation, improve your recovery, and theoretically, it would also increase your energy levels. And so, with cold water immersion, with kind of pairing those two, though, um, the top two things that I've noticed, at least through just kind of going into the research a little bit, is that once again it does decrease that inflammation in your body post exercise, which can help reduce muscle soreness. And the kind of that sweet spot of how long to do it, when to do it, 1 hour after intense exercise for 5 to 15 minutes at about 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. So that would be about 50 to 7 degrees Fahrenheit. And an important note about that is that if your goal is strength and muscle hypertrophy, you should avoid that cold water immersion for at least 6 to 8 hours because it does reduce that blood flow and the cellular signaling that needs to happen in order to have that full recovery, because you actually want that inflammation, you want that blood flow to increase to your muscles to help get that recovery, to help build your muscle, to help build that strength. So why would you do it right after intense exercise? It'd be like, for instance, like if you're an athlete and you just got done with a hard practice, you want to be full ready to go for the next day. It does help with your overall pain and doing those back-to-back workouts. If you're trying to, if you're a cardiovascular athlete or just a weekend warrior, kind of going on those long runs, be great to do if you want to do something the next day. So there is a little bit of a caveat with that, as far as like it really depends on what you're training for. And then also, it may reduce stress and improve your overall well-being, cognitive function for up to 12 hours after your immersion, cold water immersion. And it can have sustained benefits with that if you do it for kind of the study I was reading. It was for 4 weeks, 3 times a week, 5 to 15 minutes a time when you were doing the so once again, if you wanted to, like, if you're training for muscular size, strength, you would do that, but you still want to get the potential benefits that it may have with stress and overall well-being, then it'd be best to do that on your like rest and recovery day, because you've had that response, you've had that muscle response to be able to get that blood flow into recovery for those from whatever strength training you're doing. That's what I got for that, Kelly. I mean, I just kind of like blurted it out there, but that's what I was finding with that. And I thought that was pretty interesting, as far as, it really depends on what you're training for, because if you're trying to gain strength, trying to gain muscle, then yeah, it probably isn't the best thing to do, immediately following an exercise, your workout sessions. So.
Right. And it's, I think with both of these, just as with anything, it's really complementary, not curative. So it's not just using ice if you're injured, or just using heat. You have to stretch, strengthen, nutrition, hydrate. So you can't just be like ice, as you just have to ice and then you're good. Like it's all, it's not a curative thing, what we're talking about here today, but so I'm getting more into the heat, and typically, in general, it's cold. You use cold therapies for acute injuries. So you just think back to those sports days. As soon as you're injured, you put that ice on so it doesn't swell. You elevate. rice, rest, ice, compress, elevate. So that's more typically more the acute to reduce swelling. And then with heat, it really increases that blood flow to the affected area. And so it's going to be delivering oxygen and nutrients to promote that healing. So it's going to be more of a chronic, such as like arthritis, or you have that sore back. It can also help pre-workout. So warm up those muscles ahead of time, like if you're doing the saunas or infrared. I'll get into some of those therapies here in just a second, but really with the heat therapy, the net result is increasing the local soft tissue temperature up to a few centimeters deep. So if you're doing a hot pad, you're really targeting that small area, and it's that area, a few centimeters deep, that's bringing that blood flow there. It's going to raise the temperature. Uh, Now, with a hot tub, you're going to be raising your whole body temperature. So it's a little bit more of that relaxing, and joint stiffness will help resolve rather than a specific area. But they do say like moist wraps work better if it's like a joint, a localized place. So like for knees, it tends to help to do more of a moist, like hot towel wrap rather than just that direct heat. And then with all of these, even with the ice, like you have to be careful with the skin. That's your barrier. So you don't want to be burning your skin, freezing your skin. You don't want to do any of these therapies if you have like an open wound, things like that. Most people probably know or would realize when they touch the area, like, oh, that hurts. Yeah, pain would be a factor there, but just wanted to put that out there. And then for heat, it's generally recommended to apply for 15 to 20 minutes at a time, several times a day, breaks between. And then, as I said, chronic injuries, the moist heat is often preferred because it penetrates deeper. And then there's all those patches like the heat gels or the heat lotion. And, people think like, oh, it magically increases the soft tissue temperature. And that really is not the case. So there's no physical heat source that's being absorbed by the body, but they have capsaicin, which is a chemical that triggers the heat nerves in the skin. It's kind of like if you were to eat a hot pepper. Like the pepper is not temperature hot, but it's like spicy for your tongue. And so that's kind of what the pad is doing for for that area to the skin. And it's a neurological distraction. So it really does help for pain relief, but it's not creating heat and getting blood flow to that area. So there's no increased temperature. They're saying you cannot do really any harm with those things, but you're not getting that hot temperature. So kind of in summary, heat is going to improve your circulation. It's that muscle tension release, joint stiffness, the reduction, prepare those muscles for activity. So warming up those muscles before can reduce risk of activity. And that's the reason why we warm up, or typically we should warm up like treadmill a little bit before you lift or do exercises. And then with the main thing is like the saunas and infrared. And so the infrared is beneficial for overall circulation, stress release, just like the regular saunas. There's there's different theories on if it really detoxifies, and same with weight management. Sometimes like, oh, you can decrease your weight, but you're sweating things out, but it's not going to be very significant. And so it's not necessarily going for that detoxification as your main thing. And so with the infrared saunas, it's really, it more is, unlike traditional saunas, it heats the air around you. Unlike that, sorry, the sauna that heats the air around you. Infrared light penetrates the skin and it's going to heat the body directly. So this allows for more tolerable heat experience. So still getting those therapeutic effects as a sauna, but if you're like me, you feel like you're suffocating in sauna, can't breathe, or you're sweating, or don't like to get so hot, you're still getting those benefits without having to suffer through it, unless you're like Isaac and loves the sauna and loves the cold plunge. So that's the kind of the part for me. And so I think overall, like when we were going through, we're like, well, so when do you use a combo? Because there are a lot of times where you can use the combination, and it's usually for doing like right away, doing that cold if you're especially acute injury. and then, or a sprain, a strain, or if you're just like right after a workout and you're a little bit sore and you're not going for that muscular build, just to make you feel better, that having those cold plunges, that cold, and if there's any swelling, inflammation, the cryotherapy, there's a lot of like people that use that for different diseases and autoimmune things. You really have to talk to your physician about your particular case. We're not doctors. I'm not going to recommend any of that, but that's typically that. And then you're using the heat later on more for ongoing chronic stiffness, pain. So I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that, Isaac, or do people have questions?
Yeah, I haven't
Like
been monitoring the chat too
chat,
much,
I know.
but the
Like I know somebody was talking about the TENS unit and the kinesio tape. Yeah, that was Melissa.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so, like I said, a lot of this, it's complementary. It's just like you don't
Mhm.
just lift without warming up, or typically people don't just lift and not do cardio, or
Right.
like eat. It's a holistic type thing.
Mm-hmm. Use 10 years. Yeah, that kinese tape, I've had to tape many people with that before. And that's something that it can give you a little bit more support, right? And then it also can increase blood flow to that area because it does take your skin slightly like elevate it off to where you can get more blood flow to that specific spot to help with recovery. So I'm just commenting on that kinese tape from Melissa here. Um,
And like it's always nice to read the chat and like the recommendations. Like everybody's tried different things. So
yeah,
even with the plantar fasciitis, it's like, oh, that's great. Like Walk Hero show those inserts. Like it's nice to have somebody who's tried something, rather than just read about it and like try to read the reviews. Like, oh, I got 4 stars. I think it's good. So
right.
thanks for sharing that, Susie. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, good point,
Yeah,
Nicole.
definitely Nicole. Nikki, there we go.
Yeah, and it's stuff that you can do outside. Like I, with classes, I warm up, the cool down. It's like, okay, quick stretch. But some of these things, it's just trying to incorporate what can you simply do into your day, like as you're sitting at your desk, like doing those stretches that we have so much. But if you have a heating bed, like your back has been hurting for a while, and just that heat helps feel better. Or after if you recently like sprained your ankle last night, rolled your ankle in pickleball, then the next day bringing ice to work and elevate. So things that you could do that
Mhm.
you don't have to just sit there and ice and stand still. You can do it while you're working or doing other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, Julian, the cold shower. My husband does that like the last 30 seconds of his shower and he's screaming. I could not do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess my brother was telling me that he does that. And I I'm okay with like being in cold water, but if it's like shooting at me, like I like can't stand it. I'm like so against cold showers.
Yeah,
I hate it. But
it's like getting into
yeah.
a cold lake or pool. It's like I just want to be submerged. I don't want to walk
Yeah, I
in
just
or
want to like
wade
get
in.
in,
Just
be
get
done.
in,
I don't want to
get
like
it done.
it's like okay, now my yeah, I don't know. So yeah.
Light therapy. Um, so with
The red light. So that's
yeah,
what mhm.
yeah. So okay, yeah, we were just talking about infrared. I was curious with that because a lot of people are asking about it, so I looked into it, and it is the same. It has the same benefits as a sauna without the heat does penetrate into your muscles, into your body. It does raise your body temp, so you are getting that benefit without feeling like you're suffocating or sweating.
Mhm.
Some people like that feeling.
Yeah, exactly. So
Some
well
people
I
like
was
it's like you like
yeah,
to sweat, like, oh, I'm feeling it. Like, oh, this is like some people when they work out, they're like, I didn't sweat, so I didn't work out or it didn't count. But no,
right. Yeah. Yeah. No,
oh,
I like that was the one I was telling you about Kelly or telling you Kelly about earlier when we were prepping for this, but I found that it was a red light sauna and it would fit right here in between the back walls. So I'm hoping like, a year or so, I can convince my partner that we should get that in our basement. So,
We need
but
one of the scientists or doctors here to do a whole thing on red light because now I'm looking at the link
yeah,
here, the ultimate guide to red light therapy. It seems like it cures everything. It's
yeah.
good
Well,
for
there you go.
everything. Yeah. Brain optimism or
Yeah,
optimization. Maybe it
yeah,
makes you optimistic as well. Performance, muscle gain, fat loss. Like, wow, it's like a magic light.
yeah. The magic light. Yeah,
Who
yeah.
needs a pill when you have a light?
Hmm.
Well, thank you, everyone. I know we went over.